Hey guys, welcome to Ringside. As we have a very special guest today, C.W Anderson. How you doing, man?
I'm fantastic, man. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
It's our pleasure, man. Thank you for coming on. It's I'm just admiring the background behind you.
Yeah, I was just trying to work out what we've got here. I can see quite a few, like we've got a Dumbo.
This stuff over here is my fiance's Scentsy collection. She sells these things here in America. They're like Scentsy pots and these animals like Dumbo.
That's cool.
Here's some of our new ones, which is like you got Simba.
That's awesome.
And then there's warmer pots like I don't want to break it here. Warmer pots with that.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah, they have all these fantastic smells, and she sells that, and man, she does well with this. The smells are fantastic.
I saw Dumbo because my fiance is she's obsessed with elephants. So I just saw that. But
all the Looney Tunes with Sylvester and Bugs, The Little Mermaid, Lady and the Tramp. I mean,
that's so cool.
It's a lot of them.
I love it, man. I love it. Hey, listen, I obviously stuff to talk about. But I wanted to start obviously with the name Anderson. I mean, obviously, when you're told we want to make you an Anderson, yeah. I mean, how did that come about, and how did that feel to you becoming an Anderson?
Back when it was given to me, I grew up in this area where I live in North Carolina. was a hotbed of NWA in the 80s and early 90s. So the Andersons and the Horsemen, Dusty Rhodes, and those guys were huge. And me growing up, I wasn't really a wrestling fan. I actually hated wrestling until I was about 13 or 14 years old. And once I got into it, which my little brother was the one that got me into wrestling, when I started watching, of course, I hated the Horsemen because of being, the good guy, bad guy stuff. 1 second.
No problem.
The good guy, bad guy stuff. But it wasn't until I got into it to realize the respect that I should have had for the Horsemen of their work ethic. Yeah. And then my very first show was December 3rd, 1993. There was two guys wrestling as the Andersons. That Gene, who legitimately is the only real Anderson. Gene Anderson is the real one. Yeah. He give Ole the Anderson name. Ole give Arn to it because of Gene said whoever they see that has that look, the prospect of being talented to that aspect. Anyway, there was two guys running as the Andersons. They saw me wrestle on the show, and at the time I had more hair. I only had a goatee. I looked more like Ray Traylor, the Big Boss Man, than I did an Anderson at the time. So I was just coming off playing baseball, getting started, and one of the guys was older. He was in his 40s at the time, and he was getting ready to retire. And the younger guy, Pat, was in his early 30s, and he wanted a tag partner. So they sat me down and asked me, did I want to be an Anderson? Because I had no idea what I was going to do. Of course, I said yes. I had to come up with a name. And he said, come up with a 3-letter name, because he was Pat. He had Ole and Arn, just kind of stay around those 3 letters. And for 2 weeks, man, literally I come up with Ike and Cal. They were my 2 most promising ones, and they didn't really fit me. And my old baseball coach that I grew up with was actually a manager on the independent circuit. And I asked him one day, I said, Mr. Randy, I said, I can't come up with anything as far as calling myself. What am I going to call myself as an Anderson? He said, just use your initials and call you CW. So that's what I did. And it just took off from there.
It's such a cool story. I really love the the kayfabe gimmicked families in wrestling, where it's just like, it's not a real family, but in wrestling it is. And you are part of that Anderson family. And how does it feel looking?
Well, I always got told, everybody always said, well, you're not a real Anderson. And my always response is, well, none of us are, jackass.
Yeah, exactly.
C.W. Anderson and Arn Anderson, yes, are related, are cousins, the way I ran with it. But Chris Wright and Marty Lund, no, not one bit.
That's so cool, though.
It was the feeling of being part of that family. It didn't really hit me until the further I got along in my career. Once I got on up, to learn exactly how good Arn was. And then, I got to meet him quite briefly at my little run. I know we're kind of jumping ahead, but when I was doing that BS WWE ECW thing.
Oh yeah.
But then I got to meet his son Brock a few years ago, work out with him, and then got to meet Arn on several occasions. And then when he put me over in his podcast a year or so ago, it wasn't until you really starts hitting home like, holy crap, this is actually real to me, being a part of the Anderson family.
Yeah, I don't think people realize as well just how good Arn was. I think he's so underrated as a performer, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. I've always looked at it like this. The years that I was wrestling, I look back at Arn's career. Arn and myself, the way I look at it, of course, Arn made a bigger name than I ever did as an Anderson, but we were always the workhorses of the team.
Yeah.
When I tagged with other guys, Steve Corino with the Extreme Horsemen, and I did the Extreme Horsemen with Simon Diamond, and all my partners, they've always been the mouthpiece, the talkers, the charismatic ones, and I've always been the workhorse. And the same way with Arn, the one that carries the matches, the one that is able to make the matches make sense and give you that good feel, the good matches that you're looking for. So you got to find that fit. And with Arn and tagging with Flair and tagging with Bobby and all those guys, Arn's always been the workhorse. And Tully, Arn's always been the workhorse, and those guys have always been the extra part that you need as a partner.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I know you touched on it briefly because I was going to mention it, but you mentioned the WWE's version of ECW. I mean, you was there. How was it for you? Was it, I mean, obviously, not a lot of people talk very highly of it. I mean, what was your thoughts of the experience?
When it first got pitched to me, I was excited for it. Tommy Dreamer calls me one day and says, WWE wants to hire you. And I said, shut up. I said, they don't want to hire me, because one of the reasons during my time that I've always gotten set back, and my excuse was I've never had that look, because back then they wanted guys that were 6'2", 6'3", bodybuilders, things along that nature. It wasn't until the past few years that most guys, as long as you could wrestle, you could get a job. So at that time, I was like, they don't want me because I didn't look the part. I was 250 around that time, and he said, yeah, we're bringing back ECW. Paul and I are going to have complete control. We're going to go back to like it used to be. We're going to pick back up where we left off. Mine and your feud are going to pick back up. We're going to run little bingo halls, things like we did with ECW. I said, so Vince has no control over us, right? He said, well, he owns it, but, Paul's going to be in control of the ECW part. It's his baby. He's going to be in control of it. I said, and I don't have to go to OVW or anything like that. He goes, no. He said, they're asking about 12 of us to start again. So I was on board. But once I got there, and after the first night, we wrestled at the ECW arena, and I wrestled Sabu, and Vince took it over. It was a shit show after that, and I could not wait to get fired. It was miserable. None of us wanted to be there. If there was many nights that when Francine and I found out we weren't on the show when we were recording ECW or things like that, Frank and I would leave and drive to the next town because we didn't want to be there. And till today, even today, you hear the guys talk about how bad it is backstage, how they, the money's good, but they don't want to be there. It's a horrible work environment. So that was one of my big things. At ECW, we were a family. We all got along. We all watched everybody's matches. We all enjoyed being with everybody. I mean, our entire group got Christmas. We give each other Christmas presents. At the time when I was ECW, and that version was nothing like that. And the day Johnny Ace called me and fired me, I was excited. And I asked him, I said, can I go back to Japan? He's like, yeah, because I knew they have no compete clauses and stuff like that. I said, can I go back to Japan? He goes, yeah, I know you loved being over there. He said, you were popular. He said, you just can't go to TNA for 90 days. I said, that won't be a problem. That was an exciting day. January 17th of 2007 when I got fired. So I was excited to get released. Yeah,
because you always had a lot of stories that obviously it was going to be Paul running it. But I'm guessing from your experience, was it all Vince? I mean,
he took it over. Vince brought his guys in. He started filtering his WWE's guy in, diluting our product.
Jamie,
nothing against those guys. They're all great guys.
Vince became ECW champion.
Who?
Vince became ECW champion during that.
That should tell you all you need
exactly.
to know about that.
Yeah.
Do you see comparisons with that now to the new NXT as well? Like he's removed all the Triple H's guys and changed it all and he's brought Bruce Pritchard in and all this. Do you see comparisons to that? Like,
I don't really watch a lot of the wrestling, especially that WWE product. I don't watch it. And again, this is nothing against the talent there, because I know a lot of the guys there. They're all phenomenal guys, great athletes, great professional wrestlers. It's just the people they got writing stories from don't know what the hell they're doing. None of the stuff makes sense. And when Triple H had control of NXT, when I was watching it, during the pay-per-view weekends when they were running their big shows, I actually tuned in and watched it because their shows were really good. To me, the NXT stuff was better than the big product. But since Vince took it over, Vince can't keep his hands off of anything. He's always got to take over his vision and not let the newer guys take it. And that's the biggest problem. That's why I can't watch it now.
So how long do you reckon until Vince is NXT champion? Because I really wouldn't rule that out as a possibility. Unfortunately.
I saw the last pay-per-view with the WrestleMania when he wrestled. Who was it?
Pat McAfee.
Yes, he wrestled him. What a disgrace to be why would you even go out there and do that? You're not that guy anymore. You're too old. Just let it go. It watered down the product with him being there.
It was awful when you saw how well Pat McAfee did against Theory, and then
Pat McAfee is a phenomenal athlete. You could see that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, obviously the original ECW. I mean, what was it like working for Paul Heyman as well? Then I mean, is it Heyman and Vince similar, or was it a different experience for Paul?
No, when the original ECW, when I was there, that's something you miss every day. That's a part of you, and it's been 20-some years since since ECW's been gone. But that's something we miss every day.
Yeah, I miss it.
Yeah, we all do, because we miss being with each other and hanging out because we were all so close. Again, such a tight family. We always watched everybody's matches. There was no backstabbing. There was no glass ceiling there. If the first match of the show was the best match of the main event, you were happy for anybody. We all tried to travel together. We all hung out together. I can't say enough good. It literally was like a family, because I know every Thursday that I would leave, or Friday, depending on where we were at, to go off, I'd always go see my mom, and I'd say, all right, Mom, it's time for me to go to work. And she's like, you're not going to work. You're going to see your second family, because that to me wasn't work. It was going and enjoying and being with those people.
And how was it working for Paul as well? Obviously, you hear the term wrestling genius a lot with Paul. I mean, would you agree with that? Yeah,
to me, he was. I mean, Paul has an eye for talent. Let me look at the guys he had a part of the roster. You had Balls and Axel, your Chris Chetty's, Danny Dorns, Roadkills, myself, guys that would have never at that time made it at WWE because of our look. Paul saw what we could do, our talent, and was able to find that niche that we all brought to the table and make that product better. But he definitely, at night after every TV taping or we do a big show and it was time to do our promos, we'd be there to 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning doing promos, and he was just coming up with stuff off the top of his head for us to do our promo for our storyline was for the next week or the next month.
Yeah, like you said as well, I miss all of that. I mean, I'm thankful for the WWE Network, because I find myself 9 times out of 10, if I go on there to watch something, it's either old NWA or it's ECW from in the 90s. I'm with you on that. I miss that so much. But obviously, talking about the original ECW as well, you mentioned obviously you're feuding with Tommy Dreamer. You had the I Quit match. What was it like working with Tommy? Because we've had the pleasure of meeting Tommy, and he was
such a nice guy.
He took about 20 minutes out of his time. He didn't have to talk to us. It was at an event. I got a photo with him, and then he just stood for about 20 minutes talking to me and Callum about wrestling in general. What was it like working with Tommy for you?
The Tommy you guys met is the same Tommy that I met from years, back then. He hasn't changed one bit. He's still one of my close friends. Being to work with Tommy and him being one of the originals there was like, say, a dream come true, but it was so great to be a part of that. And then it was his idea to push me. It was his idea to make me to that next level. I worked Kid Cash at November to Remember 2000.
Yeah.
And after the match, he says, CW, and he tells me this, he would tell me this all the time. He's like, you're a hell of a wrestler. And then that night, he said, I cannot wait to put you over on the next pay-per-view. Didn't know that's what was going to happen, but it was, Tommy always put the guys like us over to make us better, which would make the product better. And working with him was easy. We always had so much fun. Building up to our I Quit match and all the promos with Danny and Roadkill and Simon and Swinger. They were, the inside ribs we had on each other in the ring, laughing, enjoying being in the ring with each other. But being in the ring with Tommy, there's something that, like you said, one thing that stands out is my I Quit match. And that's the one thing, even till today, people still talk about with me is the I Quit match. And, that was Tommy's baby right there to do that.
Is it true? I was doing a bit of research. You studied the Magnum TA Tully Blanchard I Quit match before that match. Is that true? Because to me, that's the greatest I Quit match ever.
Yes. That I remember watching that almost like on repeat while I was doing cardio or working out at home. Just studying that match, because if I know I got something big coming up, I want to have the best match on the card. Every night I want to have the best match on the card. I don't want to half-ass it. And even at today, with the still wrestling at my age, I still want to have the best match on the card. So I wanted something to people remember me by, because there was guys telling me beforehand, I Quit match is hard to do. I don't know if you can pull it off. It'd be something different, but we wish you the best of luck. So that was my driving force, was to put that match on the map and have a really good I Quit match.
And it was am I right? It was the last ECW pay-per-view as well.
Yeah, it was. The one thing that stands out and synonymous was that pay-per-view was January 7th, 2001, and that was my 30th birthday, January 7th. Mm-hmm. So I had that match on my 30th birthday.
Oh, wow. What a birthday present.
Yes, 100%. I remember, if you ever go back and watch it, I still remember when I get in the ring, guys, I started getting over with the fans. And one of the guys down was giving me shit, and he's like, "You're whatever, CW." And I look at him, I said, "How are you gonna cuss me out on my birthday?" Because I had my hands out to the side. I said, "How are you gonna cuss me out on my birthday?" And he just started laughing. He's like, "You the man, CW." He's a happy birthday.
So cool.
When did, obviously it was the last ECW pay-per-view. I mean, did you know the company was coming to an end? Was the rumblings? I mean, when did you first?
There was rumblings. It was one of those that I was in denial, because I was one of the people that says, "Man, this is ECW. It can't go out of business." I mean, who would ever thought ECW would go out of business and WCW would go out of business? So I figured that something would happen and they would save us. And Paul always told us he was in California with the USA Network trying to get a deal, which turned out to be complete horseshit. So he was lying to us the whole time. But I never thought, even when, that was the last pay-per-view. And after that match, Paul said, next pay-per-view, we're going to sit down. We're going to give you your contract, because I was actually getting a television belt on the next pay-per-view.
But all right, okay.
So, and it was going to be me and Nova. I was winning it from Nova. I was having a run with that. And then the talks were I was going to be one of the next ECW champs that down the road. So it was like all these things were getting ready to start happening for me. And the carpet got pulled out from under me, and did not know until the day Paul showed up on Raw as commentary with Jim Ross. That's the day we all found out, because Paul never said a word to us.
You all found out together when you saw Paul Heyman on Raw.
I remember sitting there watching it and seeing it, and it's like somebody just gut punched me, because right then I knew it was over.
Wow.
Yeah. What a way to find out. Yeah.
That's how it usually was with Paul. There'd be weeks and stuff we wouldn't get paid, and he'd all sit us down and give us that rah-rah speech, and we'd all drink that Kool-Aid, and it was one lie after another. And he'd always say, I never drew a dime off of ECW. I'd never taken one payday from ECW. Well, now we found out why, because Vince was paying him.
Oh, of course.
You always heard that rumor, didn't you? Yeah. Was Paul on Vince's payroll? So, you do hear that, changing the subject as well. Obviously, you was with Omega as well, with the Hardys. I mean, What was that experience like, being with the Hardys?
It's one of those, when you look back at it now, you didn't realize what we all had, because there was a lot of us that started with the same promotion. It was a Mega, and then there was another promotion in Raleigh that actually still runs, well, he changed the name, but it was called SCW. Greg Mazoriak is a promoter. And it was the Hardys, Joey Abs, a guy named Champagne, who did a little bit with ECW with us, and he did some job stuff at WWE.
Yeah, I remember
Joey Mercury, Christian York, myself, Steve Carino, Lodi, one of my other students, Toad, who did a little bit at WCW near the end of it. I'm trying to remember who else that was. There was like 10 or 12 of us that were all wrestling together here in North Carolina, and every one of us made it to the big time. Was
Shane Helms there around that time?
Yes, Hurricane Helms. Yes, Hurricane Helms. That's the other ones. Hurricane Helms was there. The Ducks, Mike Howell and Otto Schwanz, Murray Happer. They did a little bit with the ECW, but yeah, it was all of us that started together.
What a group!
Incredible. Sorry, go on, Callum.
I was going to say, what a group of talent.
Yeah. When people used to go to the bar shows that we'd put on bar shows and stuff like that, they'd get in for $5, and all of us would be on the same show.
Yeah,
that was a hell of a roster.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That's amazing. What are your thoughts now? The Hardys are still going. They're back together in AEW. I mean, do you watch much AEW?
I do watch AEW. I try to watch it.
Yeah.
Some of that style, some of those things are not my cup of tea. And it is what it is. I'm not that newer style of wrestling fan that likes all the flipping and the no selling, and because it makes it harder for us guys that try to tell a story. Because they're able to pull it off sometimes, because you're always taught that professional wrestling, it's a story. If you can tell these fans a story, and professional wrestling is emotion over motion. Anytime you can get fans emotionally involved, they are a lot more behind it than the motion stuff. And that's even true with AEW, when Punk and those guys are able to pull that emotion out of people. And then you have the other guys that just go out there and hell of a talents, but they don't know how to put a match together, and they can't tell a story. Fans pop for the moves, but that's about it. And again, Tony Khan's got some fantastic talent. He's got some great guys helping him backstage, and they just need to bring some of that stuff to me. Then bring some of that stuff in, the risk takers, because these guys, they're not going to have long careers.
No,
the way they're getting here. And Matt and Jeff being back there, like I said, I've known Matt and Jeff a long time, and I just saw them a few weeks ago, and they're out there still killing themselves, but they're in a lot of pain. You can see that when they walk to the ring. I was
reading only yesterday. Jeff's pretty banged up. He's in a bad spot of his body. But like you said, I mean, what is he now? He's 42, 43. And
he's in his mid-year. Matt's a little bit older, and those guys don't have to do that anymore. You've done that. You've done that for the fans. You've given them your life, your career, your body for them. You're the name. You don't have to go out there and kill yourself for these fans. They're going to appreciate you going out there and having a match. But I know Matt and Jeff, and they'd rather be buried in the ring than give it a half-ass effort.
I respect that.
I do. I think CW. I'm a big old school fan. I get that vibe of yourself. I'm guessing you're a big. Yeah, I'm getting that vibe. Just going off topic a second as well. I've got to ask you, being an old school guy, what's your thoughts on Ric Flair coming out of retirement?
Again, with being an older professional wrestler and my body and the pain that it's in, I know ways wrestled as many dates and as many places as Ric Flair has, and I know he's in pain, but it's one of those things you just can't give it up. I don't want to see it, because he's not the Ric Flair I grew up on, but I can't blame him, because I do know what it's like to try to get out of this business, and you just can't. It just keeps bringing you back in. I'm not a drinker. I'm not a smoker. Don't do any of those drugs or stuff like that. Wrestling is my drug, because that's my adrenaline rush, and that's my escape from reality. And that's what a lot of the guys have a hard time walking away from, is that escape from reality, because you guys know, and the people that are watching this, real life sucks.
Yes. Amen to that. It does. Yeah. But I just wanted to get your thoughts, because obviously to me, Ric Flair's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. But I mean, we're saying that, but I guarantee it'll do ratings. People will watch it.
Oh yeah, 100%. That Flair's always to bring ratings. He's going to bring ratings because he's Ric Flair. And Flair he's always, I've wrestled with George South, who was a guy from around my area, and I've had some really great matches with George South, and he always told me how good Ric Flair was, and Ric Flair always said George South was his favorite opponent. So getting to hear George South telling Ric Flair stories and being in the ring with George, because I've had a feud with George a few years ago where we did 4 matches, about 20 minutes apiece, and everything was called in the ring, and George was calling it all. So I can imagine Flair having that mindset to call hour-long matches. You can't. Crazy. I mean, that's unheard of nowadays. You can't do it, not with this style of wrestling.
That's it. No, I agree.
I have no idea how you'd call an hour-long match and not repeat spots that you've already done. Try and keep track of the emotion and the feeling from the fans, and then try and make it so it progresses to a logical finish. I have no idea how you'd even begin to do that.
I don't either. That is a skill and a gift within itself, because George in our matches was able to call 20-minute matches. Yeah. And I remember every one of those matches we did not one move out of the 80s. It was all claws and monkey flips and hip tosses and stuff like that. And I don't know how he would call, because I'd watch him in the back, because we never speak till we walk out there. And I'd watch George in the back, just pace back and forth to himself. And we got to share a room one night not too long ago when we were working with NWA. And I said, "Are you calling that match in your head?" He said, "Yeah, I'm just going over things of what I want to do and my counters of A and B if A doesn't work with the fans." Because you go out there, you don't know how the fans are going to react to point A. And these guys that are planning their matches from A to Z, what if halfway through it they don't like it? You can't still go on. You got to be able to adapt. And again, Flair and those guys, it's a lost technique.
It's an art form. That is.
It is. Totally agree.
Because I've tried calling 2 or 3 spots in a match just off the fly, and I'm like, I'm like a deer in headlights when I think of it, because I'm like, am I doing this at the right spot? And I've been doing this 29 years.
God.
Well, we are. I know the Zoom's going to run out of time in a few moments, so I would love to get you back at some point if you'd be up for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You seem like
we can do a part 2 of this, because there's so much more to talk about.
I was going to say we haven't even scratched the surface yet. I feel like with your stories,
we haven't.
So we will have to get you back.
Honestly, we can't thank you enough, man. Honestly, as soon as this goes up, we'll let you know. But I'll stay in touch and definitely get you back. I think there could be a part 2 and a part 3 of this. It's been an absolute pleasure. Before you go, though, do you want to let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, everything I am on. My social media is Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. But right now, I'm getting ready to expand that into LinkedIn and things like that. But right now, everything is ECW Anderson. You type in ECW Anderson, and you'll be able to find me. Facebook, it's my real name, Chris Wright, and C.W Anderson. That's how and you'll see a picture of my fiance and I on those. And she's the better looking one of us as always. So. Yeah.
Oh man, we'll make sure that goes out. But dude, we'll stay in touch. But C.W Anderson, again, thank you so much, man.
It was a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Absolute pleasure.